想要的就来拿。
This could be useful. Repairing armor for future battles. This is really effective.
The shadow thickens.
Enemy strike incoming! They're attacking me now! Join up! We're stronger together!
Behold, I know the will of heaven.
You're very kind.
想要的就来拿。想要的就来拿。
Thank you. Look at this.
三娘铭记于心。它归你了。
Let's uncage the tiger.
Work complete. Sunsun. Loktar. Dabu. Ready to work. Dabu. Swobu. Ready to work. Swobu. Swobu. Sunsun. Ready to work. Swobu. Work complete. Sunsun. Ready to work. Abu.
它归你了。
Ready to work. Abu. Work complete. Sunsun.
去这个地脉仪。
Ready to work. Work complete. Loktar. Your command, Master. Sunsun. Swobu. Ready to work. Abu. Work complete. Swobu. Sunsun. Swobu. Lordu. Swobu. Loktar. Sunsun. Ready to work. Lordu.
准备好净身阵。
Ready to work. Your command, Master. Ready to work. Lord Loktar. We're being attacked. Your command, Master. Ready to work. Work complete. Lord
This could be useful. Enemies over there. Enemy strike incoming.
Ready to work. Your command, Master. Work complete. Ready to work. Lord Sunsun. Dabu. Sunsun. Dabu. Loktar. Your command, Master. Swobu. Loktar. Dabu. Sunsun. Loktar.
听我指挥。
They're attacking me!
Time for this tiger to earn his stripes!
The power of Chi is at my command.
Join up! We're stronger to... And you thought I was dangerous before!
fragile.
The shadow will soon spread.
Thank you. Preparing armor for future battles.
还是要省着点用。
Get going.
Your command, Master. Sunzug. Sunzug. The shadow spreads. Sunzug.
想要的就来拿。
Thank you.
Your command, Master. Ready to work. Your command, Master. Sunzug.
Enemies over there.
Yes.
Sunzug. Your command, Sunzug.
Preparing armor for future battles. Preparing armor for future
有敌人，注意！
Your command, ready to work. Sunzug, ready to work. Sunzug.
Thank you.
这是大海大人的统治。
The Moonbane's eye.
Thank you.
We have gathered our strength. Dynasty has waited long enough. Strike is now.
Preparing armor for future battles.
它归你了。
You're very kind.
I'm ready to show my mastery of Yin Yang yet
Let's
again.
encage the tiger.
想要的就来拿。 准备好近身
Enemies
阵。
over there.
Volkswagen-zertifizierte Gebrauchtwagen. Zuverlässiger als das Leben. Jetzt ab
Power Jesus at my
Moonbane's
command.
eye.
Volkswagen。
As I have prophesied,
The shadow will shortly begin to spread.
My father was well. You're in the presence of nobility. Act accordingly. Their misery. Oh. Just. call violence, I call beauty. You can never have too much genius on... Oh. You're in the presence of nobility. What they call...
Daughter.
Nope.
Golden Keeper Xiao Wei report.
Rules are made to be broken.
I love to be hated.
Yes, master. Yes, master. Work complete. All right. Yes, master.
Switching locations. Knock it off! Your dad is not in. It brightened my whole day. This is practical. They're not prepared for the torment that awaits them.
The shadow will shortly begin to spread.
Whoops! I might be in trouble here!
Come and join the bloodshed already! Ooh, shiny.
Jetzt war Aldi Talk. Endlich unterschiedlich in den neuen Tarifverordnungen kostenlos nachgucken. Mit bis zu 50, 100 oder 150 Mbit und 5G ab 9,99 ohne Vertrag. Nur bis zum 6.6. in deiner Aldi-Filiale oder in der Aldi-App. Aldi. Gutes für alle.
I appreciate your help. Like new. This is practical.
Preparing armor for future battles.
Much better. Thank you. Come out, wherever you are! Knock it off! What astounding ignorance.
What's this?
On my mark.
What's this?
Sunset.
What's this?
This is practical.
What's this?
You can.
Time for this tiger to earn his stripes! Enemy strike incoming!
Leave them.
I appreciate your help. What astounding ignorance. They're not prepared for the torment that awaits. Much better. Thank you. And the blood will flow once more.
Shadow thickens. Ready to work. Ready to work. Sunset. Your command. Work complete. Ready to work. Work complete. Look, Dabu.
me.
Let's uncage the tiger. Whoops, never mind.
And the blood will flow once more. And the blood will flow once more. Fix it. I appreciate your help.
Stay out of it. Preparing armor for future
Like
battle.
me. I appreciate your help. Knock it off! Your soul is mine! And the blood will flow once more.
Could be useful. Preparing armor for future battle.
Shiny. I won't forget this.
The shadow will soon spread.
Go here.
Aw, did that tickle?
The shadow spread.
A benevolent healer embraces all. Like me. Not too bad. Someone take this. Does anyone want this? And the blood will flow once more. Your soul is mine.
Time for this tiger
Only
to
dies
earn its
in my
stripes.
wings. Lovely.
Bist du bereit für aufregende Plot-Twists? Entdecke packende Krimis, nervenaufreibende Thriller oder beschauliche Cozy-Crime-Romane. Teste Bookbeat jetzt gratis und löse deinen nächsten Fall.
Master, alright, okay. Yeah, we're being attacked! Okay. We're ready, Master. Yes, Master. Alright. Yes, Master. Okay. Alright, Master.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to build the fastest gaming PC you can. Oh, it's already built for us. Today, we're looking at a pre-built system from Alienware. This one is hot off the press. This is called the Area 51, and you should be interested in this because this is their interpretation. This is their interpretation of the fastest gaming PC that you can get. This can be spec'd with an RTX 5090. You can actually get hold of them. They are in stock. I looked in the US and you can get one in as little as a week and a half. And they're trying to do so many things with this just to essentially make it the best of the best. No compromises. With one fundamental flaw that we're going to go on about throughout this video, and I'll say that this is in no way sponsored or endorsed by Alienware. What you're seeing here is as raw and authentic as you're going to get, because this is a very expensive PC. It's supposed to be the absolute best of the best. We know there's always going to be a bit of markup. It's a pre-built system, that is to be expected. But how much is this system? Is it any good? How's it going to perform? What's it like inside? And should you be interested in buying it? We're going to answer all of these questions straight after a short word from this video's sponsor. MSI's MPG Velox 300R case has arrived, and the Airflow PZ packs a mighty punch. This ATX case is ready for Project Zero motherboards, next generation builds, and has support for huge graphics cards, all thanks to ample clearance with lots of airflow. You get 3 dual layer blade fans fitted as standard, lots of mesh for ventilation and control for both fan speed and ARGB, all thanks to the baked in hub. So take your build to the next level today with the Velox 300R Airflow PZ. Check it out with a link below. To kick things off, I'm genuinely going to start this by saying I've been really excited to test this because we've seen a lot of pre-built systems in the past that have looked good, but then have completely faltered when it comes to performance or other key areas that might be fine for some, but makes it very difficult to actually recommend to people. But I'm pleased to say that Alienware are kind of like learning from prior systems, and they're also learning what people want from a gaming PC and what it's going to enable. So it's not just something you can plug in. They've done quite a lot to make this quite user-friendly and upgradable. So a lot of the parts, not all of them, a lot of the parts are standard. You've still got a few like pre-buildy things here where you've got like exposed bits of metal when you start to take it apart, but you won't see any of that when you're just looking around the system as normal, which is quite nice. I like as well that you've got nice thick tempered glass. One of the big things they were really trying to stress with this is that it's going to be as close to silent as possible whilst gaming, which is definitely not an easy feat when you've got components in here that obviously consume a lot of power. I mean, the power supply in this is a 1500 watt unit. This is very impressive. This means you're less likely to get coil whine as well if you do spec it with a 5090. Personally, I think that is overkill, as we discuss when we give you like a recommended alternative to this if you're going to build it yourself. I would personally go for a lower spec PSU. This, I believe, is the 5090. Reads the manual. Doesn't actually say, so we're going to find out together. But yes, the graphics card is going to look pretty similar regardless of which one that you go for. I believe the cooling solution is essentially the same for both. You also have this little GPU sag bracket that kind of doubles up actually as like a cable tidy, which is nice. It's metal as well, and this is something you will notice about the vast majority of the system. It's really, really premium pretty much everywhere. It does have a side effect. It means this thing is absolutely gigantic and weighs a ton. So it's 35 kilos, which is insane. They told me it was a 2-man lift, and I was kind of like,
Yeah, I'll be all right. Look at the size of me.
but yes, I can testify that this is arguably too heavy really for a gaming PC, but obviously you only have to move it once. It's not the end of the world. I did discover though, something a little bit troubling. There's no rubber on the feet. So bearing in mind this weighs 35 kilos and is very, very difficult to pick up, you can do that with it, which seems bad, to be honest with you. So get some rubber feet for this. Alienware, can you revise this so it actually comes with rubber feet? I think we'll take a closer look at the motherboard in just a second, but just to illustrate how you get all of this undone, it comes with one screw in the factory, and then you take this out, and then you've got this little lock, and then when you push these buttons, the side panels will just come off, and then you can lift and remove them like that. And this one is also very, very heavy, going to be good for noise, but also obviously does add to the material cost of this system. And then what do we have around the side? I think you agree, very neat and tidy actually. We do have this little bit of tape here. This is just because if you do want to add an existing hard drive that you have or carry it over from a previous system, they're kind of just illustrating, hey look, just put it in here, we've like pre-cable managed it for you, just plug this in and then you're away, which is quite a nice touch actually. They've also got this very large hub here that they're very proud of. So again, if you want to do future upgrades, you want to add extra fans or like RGB and bits and bobs, then you can do so here. Doesn't look like there's a lot of addressable RGB though. Just looks like their standard RGB, which is a little bit strange, but I suppose not the end of the world. We also have room for a full-size hard drive down the bottom. It's color-coded in blue look, and you get this quite flimsy caddy, but once you put the hard drive in, it'll be fine. Obviously, whack that in, and then again, you've got a couple of cables here, so it is going to be good to go. Otherwise, you've got your 2 slots here, and as I say, everything is nice and neat and tidy. I will say as well, or at least draw your attention to the fact that this is quite a large hole for ventilation. Obviously solid cases on the front, generally speaking, aren't great for airflow, but because the gap on this is so big, I don't think it's going to be a massive deal, but I can understand if that kind of frustrates you and annoys you. But let's turn the system off if we can, so we can actually show you around the back. Pretty good I/O on this. It's quite modern, which isn't going to be to everyone's tastes, but that means you've got loads of USB-C, plenty of USB-A, Ethernet, optical audio, and then a microphone in and out. I guess you probably could get more ports on there if you went for a DIY, but they'd usually just be different. The bandwidth on this Z890 board should be the same, and it's just obviously distributed in different ways. You do also have some Wi-Fi here as well, and you get this little antenna inside the box that annoyingly isn't magnetic, so it won't actually stick to the case, or I was going to say maybe it is, it's aluminium, so I guess it wouldn't stick anyway, but yeah, that's a little bit annoying, but definitely not the end of the world. Oh, mamma mia, but let's get this down. Oh my God, that's not put on. That's so heavy, man. Crush your fingers. Easy to upgrade, 2-person job. But whilst it is heavy, for the most part at least, you can see that this is actually fairly standard when it comes to the motherboard layout. I mean, it's ATX. You can see that there's not really anything out of place. You've got an exposed Wi-Fi module, but that's about it. The weirdness comes where you only have 2 RAM slots though. So they've got 64 gig in the 5090 version or 32 in the 5080. So if you want to upgrade this, you're going to have to stick with 2 sticks of RAM. I don't like this personally because I think it's nice to always be able to upgrade, but I do understand that actually if you want the fastest overclocking possible for your memory, then you are actually supposed to only have 2 RAM slots. But this RAM runs at 6400 megahertz, so I'd like to think you could do that with 4 sticks of RAM. I think most people would agree having 4 slots would be better, but as I say, it's not the end of the world. Be advised that if you're using the Alienware configurator, the RAM upgrades are very expensive there.
I hate you so much. You shut down, or I'll turn you into a scrappy. And the test your sons. You are a horrible person.
För du har en horrible stämma.
Time to take some lives.
The shadow thickens.
They're so close I can smell them. Come and join the bloodshed already! far.
You hear me?
You can. Don't let your doctor die! Do I need a bed? Afraid yet? You ready for a shot? Your dead space. It brightened my whole day.
Well, you never said you're safe for it.
And the blood will flow once more.
Fixing my armor.
Like new. Ooh, shiny. Ooh, shiny.
They're close.
Does anyone want this?
Let's go show them something fun. Does anyone need this?
Knock it off!
You never said you're safe for it.
Fixed it.
Does anyone need this?
The shadow will shortly begin to spread.
Oops. Never mind.
Just a second. I'm repairing my armor.
Well, you never said your safe word.
Shall we go there?
This is practical. Does anyone want this?
Just a second. I'm repairing my armor. Shall we?
Sweetheart, I hope this is good for you too.
Your death was it brightened my whole day.
Let's taste the pleasure.
You got my lightning. Sorry.
You ready for a show?
Are there any more weapon repair kits?
Does anyone want this?
Play on speakers?
Oh, that.
I need that.
There we go.
Awakening!
Come out, wherever you are!
Always use protection.
So this would probably be cheaper to do yourself, but pricing will change obviously depending on when you're watching this video. Very large radiator up here at the top though. I do think that this is a little bit of a ruse, and I think actually a lot of that is the cover exposing the fans and the radiator. At first it looked like this was a really thick boy, but unfortunately I think he's just like me. Let's see, shall we, just how easy this is to upgrade. Something sticking. Oh, that's got some RGB inside of it. Okay, that would make more sense. So it must be plugged in. But based on the fact that it doesn't just come out, clearly this is plugged in for RGB and the hub, I would imagine. But underneath you can see that your radiator, as I suspected, it's got like a cover on it essentially. So it's got your radiator and your fan kind of housed in one unit just to neaten it up. And I suppose to technically stop any air circulation, but it wouldn't really make that much difference here. I'm going to pop this back in though, and then I'm going to have a go at the graphics card. I want to see what this looks like, and it appears that it's just 2 screws and then the whole thing just moves out, and it's kind of got this like quick release system actually with the graphics card, which is quite cool. So it couples it and holds it into position, which is nice. Then we can remove our 12-pin cable, couple of screws on the back, and then I imagine there is a PCIe release, and then the whole thing just comes out.
Sorgfalt und sich Zeit nehmen für das Gute. Gebraut nach benediktinischer Originalrezeptur. Benediktiner Hell. Dem Himmel so nah.
And there, we will now find out whether this is a 5080 or a 5090. No, still doesn't say. That is our NVIDIA 5080/5090, and obviously if you want to see what the Founders would look like, it's actually quite similar in terms of the physical size. It's just that the Alienware one is a fair bit thicker. I don't think it's going to make masses of difference, to be honest with you, and for something that is quite plain, I actually quite like the look of this. I think it looks quite nice. It's not obviously shouting,
hey, look at me on the graphics card,
but it's practical and hopefully is going to have good thermals. But that's definitely something we are going to have a very close look at a little bit later. But you can see it's a very large heatsink on this. You've got the pass-through design there, and I imagine some of the airflow will come out of the side here as well. Right, okay, now that we've taken that out, I can start to see some of the weirdness that you're going to get with a non-fully standard. Remember when I said they're trying to make everything as standard as possible? Well, this is their interpretation of standard. So whilst it is ATX size, you could swap this out for a different motherboard, there's definitely some weirdness here. So we've got 2 USB-Cs, which is quite nice, a little bit unusual, but they do exist. But then when it comes to actually powering everything, we've got a 6-pin, and then we've got a 10-pin. That's not your standard 24 that you're going to get on a normal motherboard. Not sure what that means for the power supply. We'll have a look at that in just a second. Obviously, we've got extra SSDs as well, so I imagine that we've got 1 in this top slot and then room for 2 more down the bottom. We've got our SATA cable here that will go to our hard drive that's color-coded blue. These cables are in very tight. Can't quite work out what they're for, though. And this ultimately is the issue, I suppose, if you go for an Alienware, even if they do try and make it as easy as possible, because it's not standard, you might learn all of this stuff and go, okay, that's what plugs into there, fantastic. And then when you do buy a standard DIY PC or you put your own components in here, you'd be like, well, that doesn't fit in there, I'm confused. And I thought we'd fully got away from that here, but it doesn't appear to be the case. We've also got this one that's called PSU Data. That's obviously going to communicate stuff to the power supply. Not standard, but they do exist. It's often USB if you're going to go down this route, but that one is not standard USB. Oh, I can read that now, actually. That says SATA Power. So this weirdness here is our power cable for our SATA devices, but it's coming from the motherboard rather than from the power supply. It's a bit frustrating, actually. Why not just use the standard stuff? Like, a genuine question, Alienware, if you're watching, you'll feel free, leave a public comment. I will pin it to the top if you do. Why are some of these things not fully standard? Is there any reason for that? Genuine question. At the top here, we have another of these ELC datas, and then finally, a properly standard port with our USB 2. And then, as I say, this like weird thing here. Does that come out? Yes, it does. Ah, okay, those are just standard fan headers, but they have this kind of like all-in-one adapter cable there. And then what looks like standard CPU power at the top left as well. ATX CPU 1, yes, that looks pretty normal to me. So I mean, there definitely is some weirdness here, I think that's fair to say. Most notably, for me actually, is with this ATX power, because if you can't use standard connections on the power supply, then how are you going to get a new motherboard without a new power supply? And if you're paying all of this money for a 1500 watt unit, especially 1500 watts that, let's be honest, you're almost certainly not going to use, just seems like a bit of a money pit for no real reason, to be honest with you. But I reckon that ELC Data is probably going to this hub, because the hub also houses a few other things by the looks of it. It says here you've got power switch down here. That doesn't look like a standard connection, but maybe there's an adapter or something you could get. Maybe there's like an upgrade kit. But I guess this might be the thing that starts your PC. That looks like a SATA port down here. I've broken that, whoops. But yes, this does look like a SATA connection. So I would assume that this then gets used if you do swap to a different motherboard perhaps, and is used to kind of like start your system and things, but it's very confusing, and I'm someone that builds PCs all of the time, so if you're new to it, it's going to be more confusing. But I think before we put this, that makes me so nervous, before we put this fully back together, turned on, and actually get gaming and see how this performs, I think the secret is going to lie in the power supply section. So let's have a look at our 1500 watt unit, shall we? Now, as far as I know, you don't get any extra cables inside the box other than the power supply to actually plug it in. This is also something that will differ if you buy like a pre-built system, because you get all of the original parts usually that you need, most notably being extra power supply cables and things, which makes upgrading it a whole lot easier. Well, it certainly seems to unplug like normal, but will we actually be able to get this out without having to take hard drive cages and things out? Yes. So I'll get everything unplugged and I'll show you. I don't know what I was expecting, to be fair, but this is what you have. So, I mean, there is some expandability. You can actually put a second graphics card in here, look. You have 2 12-volt high power connections on here, which is quite nice. But other than that, there's not really that much going on. Yeah, I've got to admit, I am a bit disappointed with that. I thought it really would be a lot more standard than this. And I do get that it's more standard than they used to be, but if you need to be 1.4 meters to ride the roller coaster and you're 1.3, but last time you came you were 1 meter, you still can't go on the roller coaster. Finally though, the absolute last thing I want to do is to show you what this would look like if you were to upgrade this in the more traditional sense, which is that most people will probably keep this and then swap out their graphics card in like 3, 4, 5 years time. This is the largest one I have at the moment. This is a 4090 Master from Aorus, and obviously you can take the SAG bracket out. Doesn't look like it would work with any other card, but that would just slot in, and then you'd probably remove this, but let's say you're going to keep it. Your 12 volt plugs in like that. It would definitely be a lot more difficult if you were to go to an AMD card or any card that didn't have the same 12 volt high power connection though, because again, I don't think you get any other cables with this. So unless they're going to start selling adapter kits, that would also make upgrading the graphics card difficult. But regardless, it's definitely not going to be as easy as if you went for a more standard pre-built or do-it-yourself from scratch. Not a disaster though. But whilst I know for a fact that loads of you guys are really going to be fascinated by what's actually under the hood with this machine, loads of you just want to know how it's going to perform. And I come in to service here as well, because what we're going to do is take a proper look at this PC's performance and show you how it performs in the games that you probably want to play. Before we get there, I have got to give you some news, because I'm afraid I have kept something from you here, okay? Because I feel like if I told you this in the intro, you would have lost a little bit of interest, because for whatever reason, Alienware have decided to build the ultimate fastest gaming pre-built they can with exclusively Intel Core Ultra, which if you know, you know. And if you don't know, I'm going to explain it. Essentially, if you want to have great gaming performance, you need to have an awesome GPU, the graphics card, and an awesome CPU, the processor. These two things work in tandem, and essentially, one is your GPU frame rate, one is your CPU frame rate. And it's going to vary depending on the game, where you are in the game, the settings that you're using, and whichever one is lower is the frame rate that you're going to see in game. So let's say your graphics card can get a frame rate of 300 FPS, but your CPU can do 500 FPS. You're going to get 300 FPS. If your graphics card can get 300 FPS, but your CPU can only get 82, 82 is what you're going to get in game. And more titles are getting more and more CPU demanding. I mean, even the most recent like remaster of Oblivion seems to be very, very CPU bound. There's a good video actually by Digital Foundry about that. We'll leave it linked in the top right hand corner. And even though the Core Ultra CPUs, to their credit, do have great productivity performance, this is a gaming PC, and the gaming performance of Core Ultra is nowhere near as good as it needed to be, and it's nowhere near as good as the 9800X3D and the 9950X3D, which are indeed the world's fastest gaming CPUs. So the fact that you can't get the fastest gaming CPUs in what's supposed to be the fastest gaming pre-built is madness.
This is madness.
So the fact that they've already tied your hands to essentially having a slower gaming CPU than you want makes this a very, very difficult machine to justify, because you basically have to specifically want Core Ultra, or you have to be so desperate for a 5090 and not be able to get it anywhere else that you're willing to go for Core Ultra just to get it. There are going to be some people that will want Core Ultra, I suppose, if you if you're mainly doing productivity and the Intel CPU is much better than the Ryzen ones for the task that you're going to use, then that would make sense. But as I say, Alienware is a gaming brand. This is surely more for gamers than for anyone else, so it's definitely quite disappointing. Now, I will say that I've actually filmed this section of the video before. The reason I'm doing it again is because there's a few different modes that you can have this in. So we've currently got this set to the performance mode, and as you can see from the top left hand corner of your screen, we're monitoring our GPU usage. So this is the way that we can see if we're getting any bottlenecking from the CPU. We're just going to make sure how utilized, how much horsepower in that 5090 we're actually consuming and is essentially being used in the game. And if you were getting no bottlenecking by the CPU, you would expect this to be about 98 or 99%. But as you can see, even at 4K at the extreme preset, we are getting bottlenecking. We're looking at around about 80 to 82% utilization, but I've seen this vary quite a lot. There have been some areas of the map where it is running at 99%, but then there are others that were running at like 70s or very high 60s, right? It is going to vary. And this is absolutely the clearest way to show you the real world problems that you are going to get if you go for Ultra. You're just going to be leaving some extra performance on the table. Now, this isn't to say that if you have a 9800 X3D or a 9950 X3D, it's going to solve all of your problems, because we absolutely see games that are bottlenecked even with those chips. But generally speaking, it's not going to be such a big problem. And you also have the benefit of AM5 platform that we almost certainly know are going to get another generation or generations of chips and extra X3D chips coming that you can just do like a drop-in upgrade. Even if there were no other problems, how could you recommend the fastest gaming pre-build that is not the fastest gaming pre-build? Because that's essentially the issue we've got here. Oh, hang on, as we open up Indiana Jones. It's weird, it only does this every now and then. The fans can like kick in and spin up to 100% if you either change to the performance mode or you open up a game or something like that. It overcompensates. Not entirely sure why, but if you did want to run this with all of the fans flat out, then yes, it would make quite a lot of noise. But while the omission of X3D chips in this system is very, very strange, I don't want you to think that this PC doesn't have any performance, essentially, because it's far from it. This is still going to be a ridiculously powerful gaming PC. It is just that you are going to run CPU bottlenecks a lot more often than if you were running an X3D. So that is absolutely a problem from a value and from a recommending it point of view. But in isolation, this is still going to be an awesome gaming PC. And it's better be for the money, right? And just to illustrate this, I want to show you what is essentially the most cutting edge title really that we have at the moment. So this is Indiana Jones. We've got this set to the very high preset, but we've got full path tracing on this. And importantly, we don't even have frame generation on yet. We've got DLSS set to performance, which is what I would choose to use it at when we're outputting 4K, which we are here. And you can see we are getting around about 100 FPS, and our GPU utilization is 99%. So even though ray tracing is also pretty demanding on the CPU, in this equation we are using a lot more graphics horsepower relative to CPU horsepower, and as you can see, you are going to get a great result, well, as a result essentially. So I mean, there's no doubt about it that this game looks absolutely stunning, and with a full path tracing, just everything looks a lot more realistic than it otherwise would. It's one of those things that, okay, if you're playing a multiplayer game and you're like roaming around and there's a lot of like motion and stuff, then yes, you're not going to be appreciating all of the detail and all of the lighting. But in something like this, which is definitely a lot more of like a like roam around and obviously explore game, then it does make a lot more sense. And as you can see in this particular scene in Indiana Jones, as I say, we're not bound by the CPU at all. And this is also why I say if you were doing productivity by day and for whatever reason you specifically wanted that Core Ultra CPU, then you're still going to be able to get great gaming performance with it. Again, just relatively speaking to those Ryzen X3D chips, it just doesn't have the performance. We have also noticed as well that it seems that the system has got a fair bit louder.
Fühle dich selbstbewusst mit deinem Lächeln. Mit Colgate Max White Ultra. Tiefenwirksame Aufhellung in 3 Tagen.
Der Hyundai Tucson. Erhältlich als Plug.
Which I find strange, because I would not set up my curves this way at all, because our CPU is actually running very, very coolly at around about 63, 65 degrees, but then the RTX 5090 is only around about 71, 72 degrees. So there's no problem with any of the thermals. We don't need this level of noise. And I mean, to be fair, we can test this. This is currently in the performance mode and we're getting around about 102 FPS. We're running at about 2,800 megahertz on the graphics card, 530 on the CPU. So if we go over to our system hub and we change this to balanced, we can see if this fundamentally changes anything. So the frame rate is still hovering around about 100 FPS, to be fair. Our clocks seem to be about the same as well. I would like a little bit more granular control. Maybe it is buried deep in there, but I understand this is obviously supposed to be like a one-click thing more for beginners and things, right? But if there's not that much difference between the balance and the performance modes, I'd probably just keep mine in balance. But I understand the temptation to set it all the way up to performance, because if you're spending this sort of money, you specifically want as much performance as possible. So you're probably going to click on that and maybe get a little bit more performance, but the noise level just isn't worth it. But from one big, heavy NVIDIA RTX title to another, let's now press on to some Cyberpunk, and we've currently got this running at the Ultra preset at 4K. DLSS is set to DLSS 4, FrameGen is disabled, but DLSS Super Resolution is set to automatic, and I want to show you a couple of things. First thing is whether you're going to get any CPU bottlenecking in this mode. So we don't have ray tracing enabled at the moment, but once again you can see that our Core Ultra cannot keep up with our 5090, so we're once again losing performance. And I realized I didn't show you 1440p. I think if you are buying a 5090, you almost certainly need to be playing either at like high-res ultra-wide or 4K really for the best experience, or at least just not to the waste performance essentially. But you can see 73% on our utilization at 4K. As soon as we turn this down, I imagine that is not going to be quite so good. Yes, around about 54%. So we're wasting half of the performance of this 5090 currently. And again, I'm not saying a 9800 or 9950X3D would solve all of your problems, because it almost certainly wouldn't, but it certainly is going to make a noticeable difference to the frame rate when you are in CPU-bound situations like this. Now, I will say that I don't think that this is particularly realistic, because we're not using ray tracing. You've gone for a 5090. You can essentially enable it for free, because you're CPU-bound. So let's see what happens when we go and turn our ray tracing on. We'll go all the way up to full path tracing. Ray reconstruction is on, so this is going to dramatically transform the way that the game looks. And yes, sure enough, you can see that it's a little bit more demanding on the CPU, so our frame rate has actually gone down ever so slightly. But compared to normally turning on path tracing, which will ruin your frame rate, you can see in the grand scheme of things, it's not really made a noticeable difference, right? Around about 10 FPS or so, but the game obviously looks significantly better now. But interestingly enough, we could still get more performance if we had a better CPU look, because we're still 76, 73% bound by the CPU, which is just such a shame. I doubt if you buy one of these, you're probably the sort of person that is going to be monitoring all of this stuff, so you might not ever know. But yes, when we can see it live on the screen, it really does go to show just how much of a difference the CPU can make. If we turn this back up to 4K, I imagine, once again, we're probably not going to lose that much frame rate. I imagine a little bit, but nothing crazy. Is my prediction right? Yeah, we've lost another 10, maybe 15 or so. That again depends obviously how CPU bound that section of the game is, but yeah, around about 70 to 80 FPS without using any frame generation at all. So let that be a lesson to you. Buy something with Intel Core Ultra and a 5090 at your own risk. Obviously, if you went for a 5090, it wouldn't be such a big problem, because that is not such a powerful graphics card, and I guess that would make that one easier to recommend, I suppose, but it's still not the CPU that I would want to pair with a 5080 either. Having said that though, if you do want the absolute fastest performance from this particular PC or anything that has this same combination, then you're probably going to want to use the frame generation feature. Now, do make sure that you're only using this if... Oh, I forgot, I've got to restart the game. God. I've no idea why the fans spin up like that sometimes. It's frustrating, like you open up a new application, it goes through the roof, but it does calm down quite a lot. And while I think about it as well, this obviously is a 5090 system. I've not actually noticed any coil whine from this at all. So maybe that 1500 watt power supply does also make a difference in that regard. But I did want to quickly show you what optimized settings may look like if you want to get the best possible frame rate from this rig. And that is going to be to use the frame generation feature. Now, big warning, big caveat with this, you only want to use frame generation if the frame rate you're getting is already around about 70 to 80 FPS or higher, and you also have a high refresh monitor. So this is a 240Hz OLED monitor at 4K, and if you turn on the frame generation feature, we've currently got this set to 4X, you can see that your frame rate is going to go through the roof, and we're now getting around about 200 FPS or so. But of course, our PC latency is actually going to be reduced a little bit, as there's an extra step in that pipeline. So don't go thinking that this 200 FPS is going to feel like 200 FPS, because that's not the way frame generation works. However, what we have managed to do is make the game look a whole lot smoother on this display, because we're now getting delivered more frames a second to our eyes. The only other problem is that obviously it does introduce artifacts and things, especially when you start to move the mouse around quite quickly. I will say that on a 5090 it certainly works better than on the other cards, because you've got a higher frame rate in the first place, right? But this is one of those games that I did notice a couple of anomalies and things when using the feature. But it's definitely worth having a go with, especially, as I say, on the 5090, because it is able to turn all of the features on and still maintain a good enough frame rate to then have the frame generation icing on the cake, if you like. Because I mean, I know this looks very impressive on video, right? right? Around about 210 FPS, max settings, path tracing, 4K. Phenomenal. Really, really good experience. But it, as I say, it doesn't necessarily work like magic, shall we say. Well then, folks, there we are. Where does all of this leave us? Well, sadly, it means we've got the fastest pre-build from Alienware, just with the wrong choice of CPU. And before you even talk about anything else, this sadly relegates this to the category of you need to want Intel Core Ultra for this to make sense. And if you do your research, you look at the benchmarks, you'll know that a gaming PC and Core Ultra are not really words that go together great. I mean, as we saw, and as we are still seeing, there's lots of performance in there. Make no mistake, just relatively speaking, you wouldn't want to go for this CPU if you were spending this sort of money, specifically for a gaming PC. It wouldn't make sense. Now that we have got this fully loaded and like fully running, by the way, I can tell you we're running at about 750 watts of power, and it has got, well, quite loud, which is a bit confusing because it wasn't doing that in Warzone, and this is in the quiet mode. So even though it's supposed to be really, really quiet, and it can be, that's not to say it's going to be all of the time. So if you were to get a pre-build or build it yourself, you would have a little bit more granular control. You might be able to get a 5090 that's got more fans on it or something. I believe it's the actual case fans that's making the noise, which is even more annoying though, rather than the GPU itself. Obviously, you then also have the upgradability issues. If you want to swap out the graphics card, has to be an NVIDIA one or has to have this 12 pin. If you want to swap in a motherboard, then it may well mean that you need a new power supply, which is very silly, bearing in mind it's already a very expensive power supply. The other changes and things that they've made, you know, I welcome that, but it's still not really where it needs to be if the aim is to have it as upgradable as a normal off-the-shelf pre-built system. They're not there yet. There's still quite a few like weirdness or slightly proprietary things. I mean, the ATX missing only 2 RAM slots rather than 4. Things like that. It's like I could maybe accept like 1 thing or 2 things, but they've all stacked up, and obviously they're asking for a lot of money, and this is the real kicker. You can currently buy this in the UK, as I checked my cheat sheet that I made earlier, for £5,600, $5,200. Granted, it has a 5090, but as I say, it does not have a Ryzen X3D chip, which would have made far more sense, which would give you better value for money. Not to mention the fact that obviously if you built it yourself, it's always going to be cheaper. That's not news to anyone, especially Alienware. You can do it for over £1,000 less if you were to do it as a DIY, but if you want to get this as a pre-build, then you could do so and get an X3D and still have a PC that's a fair bit cheaper. So again, checking my cheat sheet, you can get a pre-built from Scan for £4,950-ish with a 9950 X3D. So it's a pre-build that is very similar to this, but it has a better CPU for gaming. It's still going to be great for productivity as well. You could spec it with the 8-core version and save a little bit more money. And as I say, both of those rigs would have more gaming performance than this machine. They wouldn't have the weirdness associated with some of the proprietary stuff. It's fair to say I'm just quite disappointed, really. It's good to see that they're going in the right direction, and fair play to Alienware for actually, as I say, sending this out. But I mean, it's just not the right system for gamers that want to spend this sort of money. If you're watching this, you have to specifically want an Alienware machine. I think this has to be at least a little bit on sale, like it is in the US as well. You have to love the looks of it, but most importantly, you really want that combination of the 5080 and 5090 with Core Ultra, or there's just better options out there. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you agree with me that there's just, in all senses of the word, too much weirdness going on with this? Or do you really like the design? Do you like the way Alienware is going with this? And do you think that this would be the perfect PC for you? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Smash the like button if you've enjoyed this. Get yourself subscribed. And if you are interested in current pricing, I have already prepared some alternative parts lists and pre-builds and things to this located down in the description below, along with the links to this product if you do want to check out current pricing. And while you're down there, why not immerse yourself in the mighty MSI MPG Velox 300R? This can fit radiators at the front, top or side, and comes equipped with masses of thermal performance, even allowing 160mm fans to be fitted at the front. The dual layer blade fans fitted at both the front and rear are perfect for cooling high-end components. You can pick the perfect speeds to balance cool with quiet. It even packs in a built-in anti-sag bracket for your GPU. Learn more today with the link below. But thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.
Hello. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Bella ciao. I'm a K-pop judge. Let me throw.
Break number 3 of the night, last break of the night, Friday, May 2nd, 2025. We have playoffs, 4 box basketball, pick a team.
Okay, can I see the back? Okay, can you... Hello, do you have a perfume? Spray? No. Okay,
Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and you know what? I'm gonna be honest, man. I think piracy is kind of based when it comes to preserving old video games. Now, before we go into it, I need to address the YouTube community guidelines here, okay? Now, if you go to the YouTube community guidelines under external links policy, I'm already giving them the speech, YouTube, okay? Legal, I'm telling you, do not commit piracy.
Don't pretend I'm not the best.
Download illegal games, movies, music, whatever off the internet. I'm not even joking here, okay?
I know I'm
Piracy
good.
is
Are
wrong,
you?
okay? It takes away a product from, again, a company. Don't do it, okay? Just don't do it. It's illegal, okay? It's stealing, all right? As per most countries, DMCA like politics. But anyways, if you look at YouTube's TOS, they'll tell you you can't link to anything adult. You can't link to any websites that install malware or unwanted software. So no, I'm not putting Bonzi Buddy in the actual description. It's not okay. It's not good. And of course, links to websites, apps, or other sources that give unauthorized access to audio content, audio-visual content, video games, software, or streaming services that normally require payment. So yeah, you know, it's on the same bullet point as links to websites that seek to raise funds for terror organizations. Yeah, there's 2 no-nos on YouTube, and you just read them. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, all of the legalese aside over here, I want to talk about video game ownership, okay? Now, obviously, I talk about this throughout my channel's lifetime. But one post that I saw from Peanut Butter Gamer actually really resonated with me, okay? And I feel like with me and him, maybe it's an age thing. You know, we're both older people compared to some of the new young kids on the block. And we come from a time when buying a video game was a physical affair, okay? I remember buying cartridges that I gave blowjobs to just to make them work on the old Sega Genesis, alright? I remember picking up a PlayStation 1 disc going, praying to God that I would see the PlayStation logo and actually be able to play the video game that I wanted, right? I mean, let me tell you, when you're on Siphon Filter 2, Disc 2, and it's not working for a brief moment, you get them heart palpitations when you're that young. But anyways, he said, recently realized I no longer own Minecraft because I didn't merge my Mojang account to my Microsoft account. So he buys the game 15 years ago, like we all do, okay, on Mojang.com, if you're as old as me. And they unpurchased it from me. I don't even know how this kind of thing is even legal. Now, I'll tell you how it is legal. Typically, a lot of these companies have like fucking mega novels of legal work. Like, we're talking crazy end-user license agreements. We're talking tons of agreements that pretty much have it stipulated that I guess they can take away the license at any given fucking moment.
At first, I
Now,
didn't
do I
like
think
the
that
outdoor
should
because
be
of
legal?
sun, but if you
Absolutely
think about
not.
it, I think it's
And there's
pretty
plenty of
interesting.
channels like
so.
mine,
What do you
like
think?
Chris Rossman, like
What do you think it's cosplaying?
Rasa from Chris Farms. There's plenty of channels, plenty of content creators that understand the value of buying a fucking video game and owning it. Okay, now before somebody conflates it and says you don't technically own the game, you own the license. I know I own a license, okay? I know when I purchase a disc to anything, I own a license to use that software. And I'm not conflating it with me owning Minecraft as an IP. I feel like that's a weird conflation that I've seen recently, and I just want to nip it in the ass right now. So obviously, you know, Austin says the gaming industry is increasingly moving to a future where you no longer own the games you buy. Happens all the time. I can't play my 2-year-old version of NBA 2K because I shut the server. You know, your first problem was buying NBA 2K. Okay, that was your first issue. But anyways, I'll let that slide. I feel like there should be more pushback on this. There should be, okay? There should be.
Wow, today I have a lot more people.
Before people go, but you're crazy, okay? Just get over it, old man. Alright? ideal, it's a digital future. I wouldn't have an issue with the digital future. You know, I buy digital games, but I wish we had more ownership of our digital media, right? There's a lot of good platforms like GeoGuessr where you can pay them $60 and get access to an installer that you can install games to your system and never have to connect to their service, install a fucking third-party content, or do anything above board. You can install, put the EXE file, never have to touch the internet again for a purely single-player experience. You know, other platforms like Steam don't work that way. Other platforms like Epic don't work that way. And I feel like a lot of people are dumb enough to come to comments and go, well, you play games on Steam, but you're talking about game ownership.
I know, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying Steam is perfect. It clearly isn't. You know, you can go to GOG and purchase a fucking game like Fallout, for instance, and own it. You can own the actual, you can burn the installer to a Blu-ray drive and keep that shit forever. You know, I downloaded all my GOG games and stuck them on my own cloud server. Meaning that if I ever need to play games like SWAT 4 again, I can just pull that shit right from my cloud and install it on everything GOG once again. So again, when he actually goes down, there were some comments that I found that literally hurt. They sent you a few million emails about it leading up to it. Which is true. Actually, Microsoft, when it came to Minecraft, when Microsoft acquired Mojang, they wanted to effectively migrate your Mojang account to your Microsoft account. Now, I did that and I lost it, meaning that my Minecraft purchase from 15 years ago or whatever ends up actually contributing to my Microsoft account.
Didn't keep my promise.
That I use. Minecraft in today's day and age. Obviously, Austin didn't do that, meaning that he had actually ended up losing his account because he failed to actually migrate it. I'm sure that if he went through the customer service support section, he could, but I would think that, unfortunately, in his case, it might be better for him to just spend $50 again or whatever the fuck the Minecraft license is than dealing with the headache of Microsoft support or any support team in general. Now, of course, one person says the YouTuber has to spend $30 a second time in 2 decades.
So be it! I'll bring you home no matter what!
Brain dead things I've read on the internet. Because here's the funny thing. If you buy a license, basically being allowed to keep it, alright, for the foreseeable future. Now, it's not an business Minecraft in this situation, but it's one small symptom in a much larger problem. Now, one of the most interesting and amazing initiatives that I've seen in the world of gaming is Stop Killing Games. And I've talked about this for quite a long time. This is a movement pushed by Ross from Chris Farm, a beloved consumer who creates some amazing YouTube content like his Game Dungeon series, where for some reason Ross can pull out literally the most obscure fucking game that I've never heard of and show it to an audience of people that are absolutely willing to just consume some of the most obscure games you can imagine. I'm one of them. But here in this initiative, it's a consumer movement where they wanted to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games that they sell to customers. Now, Ross's, one of his big videos was talking about live services being effectively a scam, which is true. A lot of services that distribute a lot of these titles that are connected to online services effectively have a time limit associated. So I want you to understand this real quick. Let's say you buy a video game now, and it's a purely single-player experience. You're not really playing, or you can play the majority of the game completely offline. Now imagine if the game has an internet connection associated. So meaning that, at some point down the road, the gaming company associated can actually terminate the online services, meaning that the game you buy is effectively useless. Now that game, The Crew, that we constantly do talk about from Ubisoft as an example of this, is the perfect example. You buy a video game for $60, sometime down the road, when Ubisoft just pulls the cord on the servers and the game becomes an effectively useless brick. Meaning that for people who enjoyed that game, they'll never be able to play it again because their purchase was effectively forfeited. Now, at no point on these games does Ubisoft go out and say, you're not actually purchasing the game, you're actually
if I wasn't kidding, I would be following them.
And basically, it can effectively be up to us to terminate this game whenever we feel like. We'll give you notice, but once we tell you we're getting rid of this game, there's literally nothing you can do against it.
That looks good.
You can't get some of your money back. It is just effectively a fucking brick. So Ross made Stop Killing Games, which is such an amazing, easy petition that if you go to it, especially if you're in the European Union, guys, it's so easy. You can literally pick whatever country you're in. So if you're in from Ireland, for instance, Gotta chase it out. Okay? Simple as that. It's literally that simple. I'll bring you now, just a really good example of this is what happens in a game is so for instance, if you've never played Indiana Jones Great Jungle game, you are missing out on one of the best no hard feelings. That's an adventure title. The thing about this game is, unfortunately, it's not completed. PlayStation 5, but thanks to a channel known as Retro Game Future, he decided to do this himself. Now, if you look at the box, right next to the PEGI rating, you're looking at connection on internet necessary, meaning that you're gonna need the fucking internet to play this game. Okay, so, alright, you might be like, alright, well, what does that even mean? That means if you put this goddamn game in your PlayStation 5 without an internet connection, it installs around 20 gigabytes of content. Now, to give you an idea, the actual Blu-ray disc drive of a PlayStation can store up to 100 gigabytes. So if you just took away those massive HD textures, you could actually fit the entire game on one disc. And if you were Microsoft, you know, the indie company that they are, you could probably also see it. Can't believe this rebirth thing is real.
Can't leave like that.
Popular Italian rap. Everyone is
Why are you attacking me? Make the light of a ferocious tiger! That's a ride! Can't do that!